And now to Lebanon, where Lebanese officers have fired tear gas at hundreds of people, mostly retired members of the security forces, who had gathered near government buildings in the capital to protest against deteriorating economic conditions. Crowds on Wednesday gathered in the streets of central Beirut, carrying Lebanon's tricolor flags, bearing the logos of security forces. The protest was called for by retired soldiers and depositors who have had limited access to their savings after local banks imposed informal capital controls amid Lebanon's financial crisis, the worst in the country's modern history. The protesters demanding better pay hauled stones at the officers protecting the government headquarters and repeatedly tried to break through the fence. Several people suffered breathing problems from the tear gas. The demonstrators were angry at the worsening value of the state pensions paid in a local currency. The Lebanese pound has lost more than 98% of its value against the United States dollar since 2019, with the situation deteriorating in recent weeks. Now, joining us to discuss this is a journalist, Mariam Saleh. She joins us via Skype from Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. Good to have you join us.
Thank you for having me.
So we've seen several protests in Lebanon just because of the issues around corruption, governance, and then the blast in Lebanon. That was, I think that was in 2020. But talk to us about what exactly triggered this particular protest.
Well, basically, what we're seeing is an extension of the previous problems that we have in Lebanon. This crisis is no longer just a crisis and not even a meltdown. It's actually a free fall. And if you see it, how things have developed, before 2019, Lebanon was already living in a state of hyperinflation, high prices, the salaries, and so on. But then after the protest, the first wave of protests in 2019, then we began to see something new, which was the fact that the price of the dollar was rising at a rate, basically devouring the local currency, which is these pounds or Lebanese lira. And this is what we're seeing right now. And the latest event that happened, an issue that happened, was that in just 1 week, just last week, we had the price of the dollar go from 80,000 Lebanese lira per dollar to 140,000 Lebanese lira, which it's basically a dramatic increase, something that was considered crazy. And it was also fluctuating, changing up and down between that price, between 100,000, between 140,000. A lot of supermarkets closed, pharmacies closed even because they could not keep up with the price of the dollar, which continued to rise. They needed to change the price of the products, the price of the medication, and so on and so forth. And that is basically part of the problem. The fact that Lebanon's economy is basically dollarized on one side, but on the other side, the central bank continues to print from the Lebanese currency, and this will also lead to this total crash in the currency right now. And the other issue is that it's true that they were the ones that were protesting yesterday specifically were the retired members of the Lebanese army, but you have current employees of the governmental institutions that are paid in Lebanese lira. You have a big portion of them. We have more than 50% of Lebanon's workers work in governmental institutions or in public schools, or public vocational schools, or even the public university. They are all paid in Lebanese lira, and their salaries are basically worth nothing. And one of the retired army soldiers that I spoke to yesterday, he said, my salary is worth $40. $40 could buy you nothing in Lebanon nowadays with this price and what is happening, especially with the decision from the economy ministry to put all the prices, even in supermarkets, in dollars. And many of those people do not have US dollars to pay. Even if they do pay them the Lebanese lira based on the currency rate, it is extremely, extremely high. And you know that a lot of these people, a lot of the Lebanese are at the doors of Ramadan. They're starting Ramadan today. You have fasting. They need to provide for their families. So many of them cannot even provide their daily bread, which is probably still the only thing that is subsidized in Lebanon and still goes under this really high increase of of prices. You have that on one side. On the other hand, the Lebanese government is basically doing
Mariam, I think that we've lost connection with you. I just want to be sure that we still have you.
Right, yes. I think it's just a connection problem. I think.
All right. Great to have you back, Mariam. We're having a network challenge. But let's talk about how the government is addressing this particular crisis.
Yes, exactly. The government is basically taking no urgent steps. I mean, if you're in a state of a total free fall in your economy, it is time that the government should actually take urgent steps in order to at least stop this peak in the price of the dollar facing the Lebanese lira. So this is something that we are not seeing from the Lebanese government. The Lebanese government had been trying to go and negotiate with the IMF. So I was saying that this issue will only exacerbate the problem in Lebanon if the Lebanese government does not take actual urgent steps to at least stop this peak, this dramatic increase in the price of the dollar facing the Lebanese currency, which has lost basically over 98% of its value. And here we're talking about, as once more we say, the governmental institutions, those who get paid in Lebanese lira, the public school teachers, the university teachers, their salary is basically worth nothing because it is at least 100 times less than what it was worth back in 2019. And this is also part of the problem. Of course, the major issue is that we do have a long history of entrenched corruption in the Lebanese political system, and that needs to be resolved. There needs to be an address of this issue, but of course we do have issues and problems and corruption even within the judicial system. So therefore it seems that all these institutions need to be rebuilt in some way. The political class need to find a solution at least now, and one of the major steps that needs to be taken is to elect a president of the republic. As you know, we have been in a vacancy in the presidential position, and although the president does not have the authority perhaps to resolve issues, but could at least let and allow the institutions like the cabinet to be fully functional, because now we have a caretaker cabinet that cannot take exceptional decisions. But even the decisions that they can make are actually not being taken. And the Lebanese government is only trying to be dependent on loans, on negotiations with the IMF, and so on and so forth. And that will lead us to nowhere. So basically, what we're going to witness soon, it seems, from many are warning, there will be another social explosion, perhaps similar and even more dramatic and greater than what we saw back in 2019.
And we continue to see how this particular situation is deteriorating. We hope that somehow the Lebanese people will get the help that they actually need any moment now. Thank you so much for talking to us, as always, journalist Mariam Saleh.